Hi lads, how are things?
Hey lads, how are we?
Good now. We're all over the world.
Mm.
Ryan, you're in Amsterdam. No, not Amsterdam. We're in Utrecht.
In Utrecht in the Netherlands now, yeah. So just here for a bit, and it's roasting hot. Luckily, the camera's probably not picking up drops of sweat on my face here because it's very very hot.
Me and Mark are in. I'm down in God's County now, so I'm in Waterford.
Yeah, I'm also in exotic Waterford. Um, it's hot down here as well. It's not
Mm.
like it's probably not as nice as where you are, though, Ryan.
Or
No.
So
nice isn't even the word, I don't think.
Yeah. Well, what we got into?
yeah,
So
first time we did this in a while, isn't it?
I know, yeah. So
Weekly discussion hasn't been so weekly.
I know, yeah. Just should have changed that to yearly before this.
Yeah. Look,
Um,
client work comes first.
exactly. So we'll just go through some of the news stuff that were relevant at the minute. So this is one that when I was searching Claude today, and this was all over the news. So tech industry is buzzing after a Claude agent hacked into a gym. So basically, what happened was an AI agent assigned to book a full gym class, bypass security, and cancelled someone else's spot to get its user in and get them a place in the class. So the user stopped the
Wow.
agent immediately and had it write a security disclosure to alert the gym instead. But yeah, it's kind of a funny small example of like probably some very bad things that could happen.
Well, uh, someone lost out in their spin spot.
I know, yeah. It's like it's such an innocent little thing, but it's like
Yeah.
you can see how in other scenarios like it could be a much bigger deal.
Is
Jesus.
stuff like this kind of happening though? I remember reading something about like AI agents doing like hacking into different sites and stuff like during
Yeah.
like kind of training sessions and stuff.
Yeah. And even their training, I saw that OpenAI, or no, was it? Yeah, it was OpenAI's model, didn't it? It actually went outside its testing ground. Um,
Ah,
Parameters like it's not meant to be on the internet, but it broke out of its secure testing ground. So, to be honest, I need to research more about it. But yeah, you're definitely right. There's so many things happening with this now at the moment. It's
Yeah.
very trouble.
Next thing here then is so this was kind of an article on the search engine roundtable, and it also was kind of joined with this tweet. But basically, Meta and Facebook have been crawling the web and maybe building their own search engine. That's what people kind of suspect. So web developers noticed Meta bots were aggressively crawling their sites, sparking reports that Meta is quietly building its own web search engine. And apparently the reason for this could be because Meta wants to power its AI with its own web index rather than being kind of very reliant on Google, as a lot of the
mm,
LLMs probably are. But it highlights kind of that they're kind of moving towards trying to be their own full stack and able to kind of do everything themselves if this is true and that is what
True.
they're doing. But the tweet, you kind of maybe can't read the tweet there, but the tweet kind of highlights that apparently someone on the inside kind of told them that this is exactly what was happening.
Yeah.
yeah.
Um,
So basically, they don't want Google to use the Meta AI for their own training, is it?
yeah, I think because as long as they're using the Google search engine to get the results, I think Google can also use their
Learn.
information to learn
Yeah.
from them when they kind of obviously want to keep to themselves. But yeah, it's like Google just probably still has too much power at the minute. It's like everything kind of still comes back to Google. I feel like.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like Facebook have been trying to do this for years, haven't they? Like
Well,
they
they
did
have.
it
They've
with
talked about it, but they've never actually done it.
and like weren't they in with Bing at one point, and then they dropped it.
I don't know. I don't know about Facebook. I know OpenAI were at the start. It was all a lot of Bing search results. Now ChatGPT went to Google for a long time, and I believe they're kind of going back to a lot of Bing results again.
Yeah.
It's probably because Google are really cutting down on um, the access side of things. And yeah, you're right. They're probably learning too much from it.
Mm.
You can see that they're questioning what's the name, Reddit. Put out a statement say they're analysing whether they should really be in that partnership and allowing Google to take all
Yeah.
their content and learnings. But yeah, it's interesting.
Mm.
Yeah, I saw someone say it's not a search engine anymore; it's an answer engine.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, actually, on a completely side note, I don't know if you see this. It was an article I saw during the week actually on RTE that apparently some Irish bookstore there was someone under an anonymous name had ordered like thousands and thousands of books, but there was no clear pattern between the books, it was literally just like a bit of everything.
They're
And
just
basically,
tearing
what
up books and training AI.
exactly what they suspected was that they were going to ship those books back to America, and in America, there was apparently some law where if you destroy one book and like that scan it page per page, it's like seen as a legal thing where like you lose one thing and gain another thing. It seems like some very shady
Oh,
law, but yeah, basically people were just like wholesale picking up loads of books, like stuff about like general knowledge to literally anything you could think of, different languages. But they're getting shipped all back to America to train AI models, basically.
That's mad.
Yeah,
Jesus.
It's information. Anyone with access to info now for training models is just going to get attacked.
yeah, and they're just running out of it clearly.
Yeah.
And
Um,
they're destroying books, are they, to do it?
exactly, which is just like
Unbelievable.
feels like the last thing anyone wants to happen. But yeah, just
This
you.
is my one. So I put this in. I was having a look with this, and this is more of a not news, but I suppose it's kind of like a helpful marketing tip more so. Um, where this is always happening in SEO. I shouldn't really call it the new SEO, but it is a tactic now that we are using on a regular basis. Like when we're doing our research about where visibility and where mentions are getting online, we're kind of looking at an AI citation trail. So we want to figure out in search results, wherever our clients are featuring, what are the other areas that they're getting mentioned in and where the citation's coming from. And now we're trying to really look at those third-party resources and try and target and get into them. And we're even seeing things in sponsored search results showing up in AI overviews, which was mad. So it's not about link, but they're still getting visibility. So does that mean that should be part of your SEO strategy to get sponsored articles, not for search engine value, but for the fact that you get citations? That'll be the interesting one, and it could be something in the industry that kind of starts upticking. I personally believe. Um, the perfect mention as well. So your business, your location, the service, you want to make sure that you're all like clear sentences. Everything is kind of working in that area. You really want to have that consensus around the internet about what's been said about the brand. Well, consistency, so repeated collaboration across different sources. Mentioning you is better than like a high volume of mentions everywhere. Now, this is all what we're seeing online. I can't stand behind this. I can't say that this is exactly the algorithm, but we are testing this and we are trying to see if this is the case. And to be fair, it is working for, especially for one of our law clients, where we're getting them mentioned online. Um, we're looking at all their different competitors. If they're getting mentioned in a subreddit, we're trying to get that mention. And we got mentioned in one subreddit, and all of a sudden they pop into the overviews for that negligence keyword, and that was the only kind of change at that time. So um, this is kind of the finding out where the citations are and the visibility is part of what happens. Now this was always SEO. It's like you get the backlinks from wherever, but it's just for a different purpose now. But I just thought it was something good to put in.
Yeah, no, it's really interesting.
Yeah. Well, the deep dive of the week, I still wanted to go through this. I know we've spoken about this ourselves, but because we haven't done this in a while, I wanted to really put emphasis on this about, is SEO still relevant to generative engine optimization? And this is a great article. So Google brought out their AI optimization guide, and I'm running an ad on Facebook, and I see some fellas were leaving comments under it. So, oh, see, SEO is still trying to hang on, and I was like, F off. But I laughed at that now, I have to say. But yeah, look, but Google themselves have said here, I even referenced this, that like the AEO agencies and geo agencies, look, it is still the best practice of SEO, so it is all SEO. So it's just really, people are forgetting about the fundamentals and they're going off and trying to get all these AI citations and visibility and mentions about their brands, but they're not focusing on the clear things that still work for SEO on their websites, which I found quite interesting. And this is from SEO is dead, and people are saying now you should, although you can now get your brand into the like Instagram, Facebook, what was the other one? X, and what was the other? Was it YouTube or TikTok? It was TikTok. Are now in your search console where you can claim and see how they're doing in search results. So, like your social is now part of your SEO process now as well. So, um, cutting up these kind of videos for our social is going to be important going forward.
Yeah,
Um, But it's just to really comment on this and just make sure that people understand that, like, if you take the eye off the ball from the SEO, you will not do as well as you could um, in search results. And Google themselves are saying this; it still does SEO.
I feel like a good like exercise would be to like turn around to someone like that who says SEO is dead and assuming that they're pushing GEO or AI SEO and ask them like what exactly is their process, so and like the overlap, if their process is good, like it'll overlap with SEO so much, and it's like if it doesn't overlap they're clearly
Mm.
missing a lot of stuff that they need.
Yeah, well, you can see it. Like I saw, there's definitely. I saw, like, you see subreddits. Someone will mention, "Oh, it says, well, the thing now is to get your citations." It's like that's what SEO does. You have to go get
Yeah,
citations on brand mentions online to help build up your brand visibility. Like it was always part of SEO. It's not just about the links. It's about how you're perceived online, how many mentions you get. So, like that is SEO. It was always part of SEO. So when someone
yeah.
says it's GEO, it was always SEO. Um, so yeah, it's
And, and like it pulls from the exact same infrastructure as SEO. So like
yeah,
you know,
but
you
like no,
kind of need to be. You need to have good SEO to have good GEO. I would say.
yeah, like you go and you go to an LLM like ChatGPT and you ask, what is a cat? Okay, I think the AI training models are able to determine that without bringing up a reference, where they don't need citation. That's okay. That's training model has gone into it. Maybe you can't consider that part of the SEO sphere, but if there's online mentions where what is a cat is changing because of can people be cats nowadays? Maybe there's citations out there that are still required, but what they're doing is they still go to a fan out query and they still go to search engines to check out those what has been said about those businesses, and
Mm.
whether they're looking at a business name plus review or a business name plus trust pilot, it's still part of the process. They are going to retrieve that information from a search result, whether that's Bing or Google or wherever they're gathering the information. It is still part of the SEO process.
Right. So
This is just continued on it. I just put in an
yeah,
infographic about
Mm.
what they Google is trying to determine, and they're telling people how to stand out in AI. And this is part of their advice. It's just a use notebook LM to put in a
Yeah.
nice little graphic. But they said
nice.
commodity content, using like common knowledge kind of stuff, as like the cat example, as I mentioned, might be a good one. But it's quality over quantity, non-commodity content focused on experience. Now, I personally believe it's a little bit misleading from Google, because like you still need to focus on the SEO side of things, like having clear
Mm.
structure, H1 say title tags, and they say don't put things in content chunks or in answer paragraphs to game search engines, but then at the same time they say organized for humans, not bots. So humans read in paragraphs and text, so
Yeah.
it's kind of in one of the other ones. Um, Leveraging high quality visuals as well, providing with expert advice. These kind of things are good, uh, and they do. And a unique point of view seemingly is one of the big things that can set you aside from other people. But yeah, it's all in this fundamentals optimization guides that should be checked out. And if we go on to the next slide there, you can see like this technical roadmap. They even give you a little bit of advice on that. So like core eligibility, can it be indexed? Have you set up your search console stuff? Is your website set for high efficiency crawling? Those are the basic stuff, and structure and experience. So semantic HTML for readability, making sure that JavaScript renders and is able to be loaded and processed, duplicating or eliminating duplicate content, which is always part of the SEO process anyway. But they're just really focusing on this. And my opinion on this is it's costing Google a lot more to retrieve information online, especially if it's going into an AO view. So they want to make sure that the right information is being done. And if your website can kind of answer these kind of things, then Google will probably give you a bit more of a boost over someone's website who's slow and crawling is inefficient. Inefficient. So some things to focus on that side.
Nice. Back sticking to the basics.
Yeah, yeah, and I did love this last one. It's like they kind of it's so vague, but if you're using generative AI tools to assist in content creation, be sure that you meet the standards of Search Essentials and our spam policy. Um, So it's very vague. Like, what is the spam policy? Can Google determine AI content? Or people always say this actually is the quality content side of things. How does Google doesn't determine quality content? I believe it renders it. It does the information match, and maybe user signals come into play later down the line. But what the spam policies mean afterwards, like in other words, do you not have good authority, and all of a sudden you have 100 new pages on your website all of a sudden, and you're ranking the top results, and there might be some flags in place that
Mm.
that might detect that. Hang on, this is a low authority website or a new website. Why does it have so much content going up? So there's probably all these checks in place now from their spam policies. That you need to be worried about. Well, not worried about, but you need to consider basically when you're looking at the AI side of things. Um, so yeah, if there are links here to check out the like these are some of the best articles I personally believe you can check out if you are getting into this. You should read through these to understand what they mean. Like AI scale content is such a big thing. Like when we can see it constantly, and a lot of the SEOs you can see are putting up, and a lot of people are doing tests with AI. They're doing pretty well instantly, but then a month later, or a spam update, all of a sudden, instead of getting 100,000 visitors a month where they were at for 2 months, they're back down like under 1,000 searches a month. So it's mad to see what's happening. They call it rank and tank as well, um,
Right.
the AI slump. So yeah, just something to be aware of. It is something that needs to be looked. I personally don't mind using AI content as long as there's a bit of insight, or I have the topical authority on a website to try and do that.
Yeah.
Then I don't think it's a bad thing.
Nice. So this is just a few of the trends of the week through this week. So some of the big trends are Mark English and Rashida Adeleke for the European
Did they break the
Championships.
record? Uh,
Mark,
Mark English, he's the first Irishman to win gold for the 800 meters, isn't that right?
I
In the
think
European
so. Yeah.
Championship.
I think
yeah,
he's been
Um,
running. I think he was the oldest in the field, and he's been running
mm,
that race for a long time. I think, and has got very close a lot of times. So I think it was kind of a big personal win for him as well. And like I said,
that's nice, isn't it?
for Ireland, obviously.
yeah.
But it's great. Geez, they're performing so well. There's just so much of them. It seems so much athletes, Irish athletes in it.
Yeah.
So yeah, they're all trending this week. So helpful tool of the week. Claude Design, surprise, surprise.
Yeah, is it too basic to call it the tool of the week? It just
It's kind of
mentions
suggesting
all.
that we have some sort of inside scoop on a tool
Yeah.
that no one knows about.
Yeah, in all fairness, Claude is so good, like, isn't it? It's a fantastic tool, and but like to help if like okay, if you're able to afford a, um, I suppose a brand style guideline from a professional company, you should be doing it. Because a lot of people using these, they can start at all their designs can end up looking the same. Like a Claude post on social media now when you see it. Um, but for a style guideline, it's actually pretty good. And if you give it a good bit of input and make things your skills that you upload to it are pretty good, you can have a lovely design system. And it is something that you should spend a bit of time with. Well, anyone who's using AI really should like spend 2 days building out their own style guides, their information, everything about their brand, because then it just saves so much time in the long run. Then,
Mm.
It could like half the size of your prompts going forward then, because you don't have to start with all that
yeah,
mundane stuff like the colors, fonts, all these things. Like so, worth
yeah,
putting in the time to start.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I haven't really used it now. I must have a look.
But so a few questions there to finish this off. Um, so should we use AI in our marketing activities?
Marketers who hate AI will say no. Marketers who love AI say yes. I'm kind of the mind that you probably should. Like we do, it helps speed up so many processes on
Mm.
mundane stuff. Um, I'd say that like if you're not using AI, it's equivalent to a tractor wanting to plow a field, or sorry, a farmer wanting to plow a field, and AI is the tractor now that'll get it done in an hour instead of 2 weeks. So some items I think you should, but if goes against your creativity, and you're being lazy with your branding, you're being lazy with your messaging. It's not something that we'd like. I'd
Yeah,
all go for. I think it has its place. Maybe testing headlines, testing copy, testing ideas for graphics, creating landing pages, UX examples, like some of the things you can do with AI that you would have to pay a professional company for, and you'd have to spend a lot of money to do, say, like even wireframing, that you could actually give yourself a head start. You know, other things to do. You can use it to question your brand, and you can ask it for feedback and how things. You can ask it for advice on things. It's just a fantastic tool, to be honest, that should be used, but in an ethical way, I suppose.
yeah. I think like I don't know. Like it's good for certain things, but I think it still needs to be kind of what's the for human led? Is it
Yeah.
like especially if you're kind of doing a lot of content or using it for branding because, as you said, like you can very clearly tell what's like AI and what isn't, and you can even kind of tell what AI wrote something, you know. And like
Mm.
I think if you're kind of overusing it or just using it for everything, and it just blends into the AI noise that everybody is using at the moment. Like one thing, or just to give you, I always have a gripe on these things. At the moment, you know, all these AI posters that everybody is using for like clubs and for I don't
All the
know.
soccer clubs and rugby clubs, and
Yeah,
their
they look
logo has changed.
all look the exact same, like you know.
Hmm.
And I just think you kind of need to be careful. And I think like you know, you kind of mentioned there like the Google spam updates, like they're obviously going after you know scaled, low differentiation, very kind of weak AI content. You know, and like I know social media and stuff, you have to now kind of declare if it's AI generated or not, and then there's the whole watermarking business with the Claude stuff now as well, where
Mm.
they put in like the hidden watermark in the code. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean that the whole thing was made by Claude. But yeah, I think great tool. But I think you still need to be careful with it. I'm not very, not 100% trustful of AI, basically.
Hmm.
Uh,
Well, I
I
actually
thought,
read a.
oh,
Oh, sorry.
okay.
I was going to say I actually read about this thing as well during the week. I think I've got the wrong name now, but it was something along the lines of like AI blindness, something that's coming in now where like when AI overviews first came out, everyone was like trying so hard to find it saying the wrong thing. So like you were seeing
Yeah,
pictures all over social media being like, "Oh my god, it said this. Oh my god, it said this." But this thing is after happening now where it's like the way I heard described is like if something is right 90% of the time, it becomes so much harder to find the 10% of the time it's wrong because you're so
yeah,
used to it being right. Because let's be honest, for the most things, most simple things, it'll get correct. But it's like
Mm.
when you get that used to something being usually right, it becomes almost impossible to find the stuff that's wrong. So it's like you have to be super careful because if it was 50-50, you'd be much better at finding it because you'd be
yeah,
looking
yeah.
out for it more, you know.
Yeah.
But it's funny, like, you see people kind of doing little tests to manipulate the results in, like, AI answers. You know, like, Key might write a LinkedIn post and say, like, Key Murphy is the best SEO in Ireland. And then he might put that into a Reddit thread, and then he might put that onto a YouTube video, and then he might put that onto like his website. And then if someone Googles it, then Keen is the first thing that pops up as the best SEO in Ireland. Like I actually saw someone do that for best SEO in the world. You know,
Mm.
he just kind of went to the most cited places that AI pulls from, like Gemini or Google or whatever pulls from, and just did that, and then it kind of brought it back. Like so,
Yeah.
and
There's
like
this AI poisoning is massive.
yeah,
Yeah.
and that's my kind of worry because if it got something wrong, but then like a million people wrote an article citing the thing is right, does it kind of become right even though it's wrong? Do you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's going to happen eventually as well. There'll be a lot of seemingly what happens with there's a lot of communities out there, especially in subreddits, where you can ask them to help with poisoning as well, which is
Mm,
um, but if I think it's like you need 250 documents, wasn't it? At one point was proof,
yeah,
so if it's 250 mentions or something, the AI would take that as gospel. I don't know if that's still the case, but I remember when they first came out, that was how people were able to manipulate. So yeah,
yeah. But yeah, look, as you said, Keane, for like the unglamorous stuff, I suppose. Like I ideas and research and first drafts of stuff and feedback and like I don't know, doing like a gap analysis on competitors, like stuff like that. Brilliant for it, but I think like content and our stuff needs to be a
Yeah.
little bit more. Yeah.
Be human led, double
Yeah.
check, and what you call it, find the references and see if it's
Right, so I think we got two more maybe. So how can I get more leads for my business quickly?
well. Look, SEO isn't your quick answer anyway, but
Mm.
we actually get this a lot, especially from service based businesses like say like we'd have someone like a plumber or a roofer who's had a really they'd be booked up for months and then all of a sudden it'd all go dry and they're in touch and they're like, oh yeah, we did really well there, but now we need 5 or 6 leads, like we need to fill up our next 2 or 3 weeks.
Mm.
It can be very hard to just switch on a campaign and get that instantly. But if I had to advise someone, I'd be looking at your making sure your website mentions everything first of all. I'd be looking at creating landing pages for the specific services that you want and the specific types of client that you want. Create web pages that speak to that type of client, whether it's if it's a roofer in a location, go to Google Ads, set up a campaign, target that location or that service plus that location, set up your tracking, your conversion tracking, uh, put a bit of money into your Facebook as well, even if it's just warm audience targeting on Facebook, so you're following those users around and expanding into Advantage Plus maybe. But you have to pay really in the paid media side of things if you want those leads quickly. But that's it for speaking about digital marketing. You do have the other opportunity of doing flyers door to door,
Mm.
is actually one of the like number one things for local service based businesses.
Like I
Um,
think for the local businesses or like you said, kind of trades and services, like the Google Business Profile can be a bit of a can get you good results, right? If you
yeah,
kind of
yeah.
set up like
If you put money behind it, but it can be hard to optimize. Just local SEO, it can be hard to get into those into the map listings.
mm,
There are You do have to optimize. You do have to get citations, and you do have to um, put a bit of effort behind a Google Business Profile. But if I had to get leads quickly, what I'd be doing is turning on my Google Ad campaign if it's service based. If it's product based, well, it depends on and you'd have to understand that the cost is different for each of these things as well. Like
mm,
roofing is probably one of the most expensive industries I've seen. It's just as expensive as legal, if not more expensive. It's insane. And why is that? Because a roofer will tell you like you might have a broken tile, but he'll find a problem with your chimney, and all of a sudden you're paying 2.5 to 5 grand to get your roof fixed. So it's high value. But
um,
I'd be looking at those things.
yeah, and something like when we go in and look at websites for things like that, and like I would always do a quick walkthrough of whatever their kind of sales funnel is, like if it's a kind of a contact form or something, because like oftentimes you will find they're broken or
Yeah,
something. You know, there's always something wrong there. So the leads might be coming in, but they mightn't be kind of reaching you essentially. Like, and even we had a Google Ads client, and the kind of landing pages they were sending people to from their ads were broken. You know,
yeah.
so
I'd say that's it. Pay media, make sure everything is pay media is the first step. Making sure your landing pages are right, making sure there's no technical issues and you're getting those contact forms. Recently, like you mentioned, we came across one contact form where we could see leads conversions coming in. We went into it and we found out that the send where the inquiries are going were to the developer's inbox, and in that developer's inbox, it was going into their spam, and this person was losing out in about 5 to 6 inquiries a week. Like insane stuff that people wouldn't notice this kind of thing, but it happens.
Um, right, so I think we got one question left. This kind of ties together some of the stuff we were talking about earlier, maybe with the efficacy of using AI and also with using Claude. But is it still too risky to replace your website with one created entirely in Claude, as we know that it can do that now?
Nope, it's not because we're doing tests at the moment and they're working fantastic. Why are they working fantastic? Because they're lightweight. We can upload, like we're uploading to cPanel, so we're asking it to create HTML websites. We're putting in accessibility, privacy policies, everything, cookie ban. We're able to target counties. We're able to really build the authority quickly. And if you're putting effort into the content and pulling it onto the website, even better. But Claude can build an entire website in a niche industry in a locality in like 15, 20 minutes. The only thing that you're going to have a problem with is if you're not used to using a CMS, so you don't know how to
Mm.
edit the content, edit the HTML, you run into a bit of a problem. So it's not as easy. Like for us, well, for anyone of us who has the HTML, we're able to do it pretty
Mm.
quickly. Like fantastic websites in a couple of minutes. But you run into the problem then of editing those websites, updating them, and tracking. There are still little problems, but it's not too risky uh, to start off. I'd actually have a Claude website over a Wix website at the moment, 100%, for a small business, especially if that small business, like say a restaurant or a landscaper, in plumbers, carpenters, people who aren't going to be changing their websites too often or aren't going on these big publishing missions. If they're more static, like there's absolutely no problem. And you can, if you have the right prompts and the right training, you can get those websites to do very well very quickly. I would say one of the big things we do is with our prompts when we're doing them, I was making sure that I was like, make sure it's original CSS, never take from Tailwind. I don't want any of that kind of stuff. Um, Here's like an example of 6 different websites I look at. Here's website trends this year. I'm getting to reference all these. I'm adding screenshots. I'm basically creating a Google Doc or sheet, Word doc that I'm uploading with the instructions, but the instructions are very detailed. It's like the number of pages, the titles, the descriptions, the target locations, everything. But it's not too risky.
Mm.
And I can see it straight away. I don't see like Google, the website is crawlable. Um, the big thing is you can't forget about the rest of the stuff. You have to advertise your website. You have to build up the SEO of it. You have to put paid media behind it. You have to do the tracking, um, and with some training, you could potentially know what to do. But for someone who doesn't know anything about HTML, it might not be one for you. You're probably better off with something like Squarespace or Wix. Like we've seen some Wix websites do pretty well for some localities. They have gotten better, but I actually like Claude. Yeah,
Yeah, I would just say again about make sure you review it and you know what you're doing because I think like I was reading something where like security, cyber security people were kind of flagging things with AI code and AI website where like there's you know mistakes in the code basically, and there's kind of leaves your website open and vulnerable to different things. And if you kind of, like you said, Keen, if you don't know what you're looking at, you probably won't know how to spot it. And I find like even talking to one of our own clients recently, who it wasn't like a AI website, it was like a WordPress thing, but he asked like the AI for advice on how to do something, and then he just kind of went and did it and broke something. And I was like, well, why did you do that? And he was like, well, that's what the AI said to do. So like it just goes back to like trusting AI output without understanding
yeah.
why you're doing something,
The one thing I would say that the Claude website is doing, it's enabling people to build new websites without huge resources.
Mm,
So we're seeing clients now have their main domain, which we're working on, might be a WordPress website, but then they're buying EMD, so exact match domains. Like for us, it could be, I don't know. So I bought SEOaudits.ie. That's an exact match domain, and it's ranking number one in SEO Audits Ireland, right? That's a Claude website, and it's an exact match domain. We're seeing people build out some of these more domains that aren't heavy; they're just there as extras that can help in the SEO process. But you have to be careful that it doesn't become a PBN, a blog network. Uh, it's just something to be aware of that this is happening, and I reckon a lot more people and a lot more websites are being spun up, especially on things like Lovable and
yeah.
those areas. Um, but I wouldn't use. I prefer Claude over Lovable.
I think as well that like you kind of touched on earlier, Keen, too, but it's like we all in such a short space of time could already pick out a basic Claude website from a lineup. It's like they can look very obviously like a
Yeah,
Claude website if you don't
it's like
start with strong inspirations, you know.
Mm.
yeah, it's just a template, really, isn't it?
Yeah, well, you see, a lot of them pull from the same. If you don't tell, like I tell it to build CSS, and I give it like some CSS examples. But if you don't, it generally uses like Tailwind.
Okay.
which is an online CSS. That's why they all look the same. They
Mm.
all have that same rounded button color and the see-through, um, some of the see-through columns, and looks very high tech. But like everyone's website looks like that now. But is
Yeah.
you
It's a good
know,
reminder though to like always, try always have a personal touch. Like add your own images, make sure it's not just a faceless website because it's all good to have, like you said, maybe exact match domain rank number one, but you might get no leads if it looks like this faceless,
yeah,
like 100
Mm.
page website that, so it's like, I think.
yeah. No leads have come in off that.
So yeah, a personal touch is probably, it comes back to like the humanizing the blog articles. It's like a personal touch on a website too, maybe.
Yeah.
Um,
And like, I don't know, does it get like a bit risky if you're taking payments or handling like
Yeah, I wouldn't be doing that. Well, if you're taking external payments to a Stripe link, it's fine.
yeah,
We have that with one. We have a restaurant that we did a Claude website for, and their external link is to Open Table, so there'd be no
okay,
security risks in that sense. But like, I wouldn't be building a payment gateway.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah. There are certain risks, but yeah,
wouldn't be building any gym websites on it either.
no. And you do have to, if you're building them, you do have to understand your control panel, your cPanel, and the back end of your
mm,
host. You do have to understand about the security and about one of the big ones I saw was the file writing ability. Like if you leave files open, people can write to your server. You have to increase security and know kind of what way permissions work in the back end. Um, but yeah.
Yeah, there probably is too, like a lot we take for granted with a WordPress site as well, like that,
yeah,
all those kind of stuff.
Yeah, yeah. WordPress brings its own problems too. I saw a lot of people are building their own CMSs now, and developers are doing that. And I reckon that's probably something that is going to come up in the next couple of years, where agencies will build their own CMS systems for their own websites that will be AI produced. Um, but if a company wants to leave those, they'll be leaving that CMS behind. It'll be a nightmare to move. But that's you see that with companies already. If they have their own CMS websites, um, if they're custom, people try and tie them into contracts where they can't kind of leave them, And if they do, they're very difficult to take a website with them. But it all
Yeah,
depends. That
yeah,
if I was enterprise, I wouldn't go near Cloud. You know,
yeah,
if I had enough money, no problem. I should be using Cloud if I could afford an agency. But if I'm an SME, I'm trying to get my name out there. I need to spin up
mm,
something quickly. I want to get local SEO results pretty quickly. I want to have something there for my paid media. Like, yeah, Cloud is fantastic.
yeah. Great option to
very good.
have. So I think that's it for
Yeah.
uh, for this week. So we might be back next week. We'll see.
Might be,
See, well, I won't be.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Kean definitely won't be.
he won't be.
Maybe on the way. All right, lads. Have a great weekend. We'll talk to you later.
Cheers,
Okay,
lads.
lads.
Bye.